Are you looking for a new computer? This video is about how to select the right settings or the right specs for a computer when you're looking for a PC computer. So I was talking to a client recently. He was asking me for a couple questions about how to pick the right computer for his business. And I figured I might as well put together a video talking about what I think is the right specs. And so the specs vary a lot. There's a lot of different things to look at, like price is a real big factor that a lot of people are, they don't want to spend too much money. But it's really important that you get the right specs, and you don't have to go crazy with what you spend in order to get good specs, but here's where you want to start. So when it comes to PCs, so we're just talking about PCs. We're not talking about Apple computers or any other computers, just PC, so Windows computers. When you go to search, like you go to Amazon or you go to Best Buy, what you want to look for if you go to Amazon is put in i7. So i7 is the processor. You want to have an i7. If you get an i3 or an i5, you're going to have problems. They're not going to run well. Have problems buffering video. Things are going to clog up. If you have a lot of tabs open, it's going to be very slow. You're just going to have a lot of issues. You need a strong processor. So if you start with i7, put in laptop computer i7 and start your search that way. And then what we want to do next is we want to look at some of the specs as far as RAM. So you want to have 16 gigabytes of RAM at a minimum. That's really important to have 16 gigabytes. That's what's basically going to move all the programs around. What's going to happen is basically your active memory is RAM. So we need to have a good 16 gigabytes of that. Don't go with 8 gigabytes. You could go with 32, but it's going to be a lot more expensive. You're going to spend an extra $200-300 to have something with 32 gigabytes. If you're cool with that, spending that type of budget, great. 16 gigabytes is great, but just know that you need 16 at a minimum. And then you want to have a pretty decent size storage. So 500 gigabytes is a pretty entry level. SSD is what you want. You definitely want an SSD, which is a solid state drive. It's not a spinning drive. It's more of the modern type of drive. So 500 gigabytes is good. Ideally, we get to 1 terabyte. So if you can find one that has an i7 with 16 gigabytes of RAM and has a terabyte of storage, that's going to be ideal. Those settings are going to be kind of ideal. Now, if you have to get the 500 gigabytes of storage, that's kind of a compromise, but ideally you can get to 1 terabyte. That's where it's really going to be great. So that's really the best computer. You're probably going to be around $600 to $800 for a computer like that. You may be able to get a used one for around $300-400 with those same specs, but you're probably going to spend around $600 to $800. And if you want the one with the 32 gigabytes and a terabyte, an i7, you may spend around $1,000, $1,200. So it just depends on what your budget is, but you need to have those specs. If you go below that, if you have, let's say you have an i3 with only 8 gigabytes of RAM and 500 gigabytes of storage, you're going to have a bad time with that computer. It's just not worth it. So sometimes you have to do that. That's just your budget. But if you're trying to run your business, I say invest in a good computer. You're going to need that i7. You're going to need that 16 gigabytes of RAM. You're going to need that 1 terabyte of storage. So this is Joe Field with SkyPoint Studios. Hopefully this is advice that maybe you can use when you're looking for your new computer. One other thing I wanted to mention was that you definitely want to get a Windows 11. Don't get a Windows 10. In this day and age, you definitely want Windows 11. That also sets some of the specs. So if you're getting Windows 11, it has high-level specs in order to be able to even run Windows 11. So definitely get that as well. If you have any questions about purchasing a computer, I definitely could answer those. You could comment down below. I can make another separate video. If you have a specific model that you have questions about, I definitely could review it, check it out, let you know. If you have any other questions about web design, that's what I specialize in. I'm a computer scientist. I do web design all day. I work with computers all the time. Been doing it for 15 years, and I'd love to answer your questions. Joe Field with SkyPoint Studios. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.